The only thing about travel day that should not be an adventure for all the wrong reasons is no.
What on earth are you trying to say?
I don't know. All right.
That was the most confusing set of words I've ever heard in my life.
It is. All right. The only thing about RV life that should not be an adventure for all the wrong reasons is travel day. And here's 6 easy tips to help your travel day be smooth and easygoing next time around. And one huge, massive, amazingly big game changer to help you save hundreds of money on fuel.
Hundreds of money.
Hundreds of monies.
Hundreds of monies?
Hundreds of monies.
What does that
fuel.
mean?
Hundreds of dollars, hundreds of monies, hundreds of pennies. Yeah, I mean, we've saved hundreds of pennies. We've also saved hundreds of dollars.
I hope we've saved more than hundreds of pennies, because that's just dollars at that point.
It's true. It's true.
It's literally just dollars. Roll the intro!
Welcome to the Wandering RV Show, your source for our stories.
Our screw-ups.
And our successes living the full-time RV life. I'm your host, Kara, the Wandering RV Babe, and this is my driver, Ryan.
Howdy!
That was a very emphatic howdy.
Well, you know, I gotta roll us back into it a little
fair.
bit. Get you guys back up and energetic for the show. We're not calling it a podcast anymore. The show.
The show. Today's show is all about travel day and how to make your travel day stress-free and smooth sailing, or smooth driving, as it were.
Hopefully both. Hopefully both. We've had a few too many stressful travel days lately, haven't we?
We have. Okay, I have one in particular.
Oh.
That I'm thinking of, and like all of
Am
our
I supposed to? Is this like a game? Are you gonna
This is a
describe
game.
it, and I'm gonna guess which one you're talking about?
Yeah. So this is a game, and I'm gonna describe probably the worst travel day we ever had, in my opinion. Are you ready? Well, if you keep singing over top of it, then you're not going to hear what I have to say about it. Worst travel day was... It's a toss-up between 2, actually. But I'm going to tell you the worst one that I think it was. And that was, we had been driving all day. It was nighttime. We had had so many delays. And we had been literally on the road all day. We were tired. We were exhausted. We thought everything was golden.
I still can't guess yet.
At our campground. And we get there, and they put us in a terrible, terrible campsite. We couldn't fit. We couldn't even get around to be able to fit. And the couple that we were caravanning with, who also had an RV and also were going to the same place, they put them in a sinkhole. It was a campsite that had a sinkhole. That one was the worst one. So in the middle of the night, we're calling around these campgrounds. And this is in the season, in the winter season in Florida. We had actually gone to go to St. Augustine to go see their Nights of Lights, which was awesome, by the way. Spoiler alert, we did actually end up making it to that. But in the middle of the night, on our first night that we arrive, we're just stuck at a gas station trying to call campgrounds, of course, after hours, and try to find a place to stay that night. It was awful. I'm on a payphone trying to call home. Well, we weren't on a payphone, but yeah.
No, we actually had cell phones. Yeah, this was only a few years ago.
So did you guess it? Did you know which one it was?
I got it.
You got it?
I eventually, I think it called out when I got it.
Okay, so what is your worst travel day?
Okay, so we haven't talked about this yet, but I lost my brakes, my truck brakes, while towing.
Yes.
Luckily, we were not on the highway at the time, so I was able to just use the trailer brakes to slow us down and then get into a little parking lot, and that's where we learned that there are mobile diesel techs who come out and they will just work on any heavy duty truck right there on the side of the road, or in this case a parking lot. I'm pretty sure he probably appreciated that, because I think he's used to working on 18-wheelers on the side of the highway, literally.
He told me that, yes. He was very grateful that we managed to make it into a parking lot, and he was able to work without wheels flying by his head at 60 miles an hour.
So one of our rules is we try to get in before the sun goes down while the office is still open. And so in the process of all of this, we kind of decided to divide and conquer. And I also hired a mobile,
RV transporter.
an RV transporter to take our RV to the campground, so we could go ahead and get that set up, and the other stay with the truck and then drive the truck. So we still had 2 more hours left on our drive.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, we don't want to be coming in after dark. We don't want to come in after the office is closed. We don't want to try to be setting up in the dark. These are just things that we've learned over time. We've done them, and we can do them if we have to. But in this scenario,
it's not fun.
It was raining. It was not. We knew it was going to take too long. We still had 2 more hours, and so by the time I think she ended up staying with the truck.
I did.
By the time she got home, it was like almost 9 o'clock. So if we had stayed and just taken the RV, then we would have been pulling in probably at 10 o'clock, I would imagine, honestly, because
you travel slower when you tow.
Yeah, you just travel slower when you're towing. Yeah.
It was actually a really good thing, too, because the campground, it was beautiful, but it had 0 lighting at night, which is also kind of a nice thing if you're there. It's not a good thing when you're having to try to, like, back the RV in, which it was a back-end site, and so
it was actually a pull-through.
Oh, was it a pull-through?
Yeah, it was a pull-through.
It was a tight pull-through, though.
Not really.
I felt like it was a tight pull-through.
Not really.
See, here's the other thing about travel day. Your passenger is going to be sitting here white-knuckling it when you're in traffic or in weather, and just my imaginary steering wheel, and I'm just white-knuckling it, and I'm like, a basket case over here in the passenger seat. And the driver is just like cool as a cucumber. Totally fine. Everything's good. No worries. Until our brakes fall off in the middle of the road.
Hey. I don't think I freaked out even when that happened.
You really didn't.
See? I got this under control.
You were good. You were good. But that brings us to our tips on the many, many years of full-time travel that we have already done, and some part-time travel that we did before that, to help mitigate some of those stressful travel days or avoid them entirely.
Okay, leave a comment down below if you think she's going to eventually hit me in the face. Because I feel like it's just going to happen with this setup.
Because I talk too much with my hands.
You talk a lot with your hands.
I do talk a lot with my hands.
I appreciate it. Number 1!
Number 1. But before we get to number 1, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. And number 1 is having a checklist for the inside and the outside of your camper.
Continue.
He's like, wait, tell me something new.
Tell me more. Tell me about this.
You didn't know.
I would like to know about this checklist thing of yours. What is the magic? How does this work?
Oh my God. Well, let me just tell you.
Please continue.
So we have a checklist, and we actually use the checklist on Apple Notes, and it's got the we've got it set up to have like the little checky check thing. So I feel really good whenever I go through and I can click and check the box or check the button for the checklist, and it really covers everything. Shut up. He's laughing at me.
I'm just laughing.
It covers everything on the inside of the camper as well as the outside of the camper. So this is when we're hitching up, when we're packing up, when we're getting ready to leave for travel day, to ensure that we don't miss anything and get done with travel day and end up, with a mess of salsa in everywhere.
Story been up on TikTok. Anyways, so what I'm going to add to that is how this really works is I don't actually look at the checklist. So what happens in the morning is she gets up, she takes her shower, makes coffee, then wakes me up so I can take my shower, basically give it a little bit of time for the hot water to heat up. And then I basically take my shower, start getting ready, and then get everything that I need, like I get my water bottle filled, get my tea glass filled, grab my coffee cup, grab my backpack, put it all into the truck, and then I start working on the outside. And what she does is just follow behind me and say, "Are you done in this room? Are you done in this room? Are you done in this room?" And then eventually...
So I can lock everything down!
Yeah. No, it works. And then...
It works really, really well.
And then I don't have a checklist for the outside, because if it's outside of the RV outside, then it probably needs to be inside the RV instead of outside, so... that I can kind of just see if things are not, there's not really we don't have I guess we do kind of, but not really. We don't really have a refrigerator lock type situation that exists on the outside of the RV. It's like you put your sewer hose away, you put your water hose away. You don't really lock any of that back up to make sure it doesn't fall open with salsa going everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, if it's on the outside, it's pretty obvious. If you see it, it needs to be put away.
Correct.
So it does make it a little easier, although I will say when we very first started, we did rely on that checklist a little bit more as just kind of a gut check to make sure everything was put up. I related. The inside is a completely different story though, because you kind of get used to all of your stuff just kind of being around, being in the same spot, that kind of thing. And it is very easy to overlook things on the inside. For example, our theater couch is right across from, like our theater seats are right across from the TV, which is great viewing angle for watching TV, having a movie night, things like that. Like, earlier today, it was raining really, really hard, and so we just, threw some YouTube videos on and we're editing and things like that. It was great. But those theater seats get in the way of the slides that actually come in for when we're hitching up and getting the camper ready and prepped. And so I have to remember to push those theater seats all the way back to the back wall so that the slides can come in. That's not something that's like a visual trigger, at least not for me to remember to do on my own. So the checklist really comes in handy. And so I go through, like he said, when he's done getting ready, I ask, hey, are you done in this room? Because I have a checklist that's specific and has everything grouped that I need to do in that room together. So that way I can get one room done. I come out, do the bedroom first, do the bathroom, do the hallway, check all the doors, all that stuff, do the living room area, do the kitchen area, which is at the rear of the RV.
Okay, I've just barely been paying attention, but I wanna have you guess how many items are on your checklist.
Oh,
I literally just counted. I wasn't really paying attention, so hopefully you guys listened and she said something important and not wrong.
I would say probably 30.
30?
Yeah. 30 items on the checklist?
Times 3.
Oh, wow. 90?
No, there's 79 items total.
Oh, wow.
Almost 3.
Oh,
almost
wow.
3 times.
Well, so did you include all the outside stuff as well that
Yeah.
I don't really pay attention to
Correct.
anymore? Okay, but it's still there.
Yeah. You want to know how many were just the inside stuff?
Well, based on that number, I'm going to say like probably 60 then.
Pretty big odds, like 57 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty spot on. Okay,
Yeah.
Number 2.
Figuring out how not to drive in bad conditions, whether it be inclement weather or just like you wake up one morning and you're like super, super sick and you really shouldn't be on the road. Otherwise it would be like a safety concern.
Being sick is an inclement condition?
It is. Yeah.
I guess so.
It's bad.
Okay.
It's bad conditions. In bad conditions. Don't drive in bad conditions.
Yeah, so we actually watch a lot of weather. Like a lot of weather. Like,
I think between the two of us, we have like, 4 or 5 different weather apps on our phones?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
There's some paid weather apps out there. They're very valuable. We don't personally use them. That basically you can like put in your route and then it'll kind of predict what the weather's going to be like for that. But we just look at the radar, the predictions. Like I think we've got, obviously we look at Apple weather. We look at, I think I've Samsung weather or whatever it is on my phone, but then we have like 3 or 4 more apps each. You use My Radar, I use WeatherWise. I don't even know. There's Carrot. I think I use because Carrot, you can set the source to be something different.
And the reason why we watch all of those weather apps so stinking closely is because we've had a few weather issues before when we go to leave on travel day. So one of them that is a really big important factor is wind.
Yes.
One of the very first times we drove the RV, we had 50-mile-an-hour gusts, and the weather report called for, I think, 30-mile-an-hour gusts that day as part of the forecast, but we ended up getting on the road, and it was like 50-mile-an-hour gusts. Now,
I think it was more than that because even the 18-wheelers were pulled over. And then because of where we were at, we were on the edge of the desert, and so with that wind also eventually came a dust storm, and so like luckily
couldn't see.
We'd already pulled off at that point, but because the wind was getting too bad, and like I said, when you see the 18-wheelers pulling off, if you're driving a Class A or a fifth wheel, or even a lot of the pull behinds that are pretty tall, you should probably be pulling off. Really, you should only stay on the road if you're small enough that like you're not really feeling it, and even then, why not just be safe?
Yeah, and that's the thing is the 18-wheelers can actually withstand higher wind speeds than an RV can because, one, they're heavier, and two, they have more wheels on the ground to grippy grip on the ground. So to his point, if they're not going to brave it, you shouldn't brave it either.
So those 18-wheelers, they'll do crazy stuff to get to where they need to go. So if they're not willing to do it, it's not worth it.
Another one was one morning we woke up, we were planning to leave, and just kind of a really quick snap freeze hit.
Oh, yeah.
And all the roads were iced over. There was this massive bridge that we had to go over pretty quickly after we left the campground. That was completely iced over. And our sewer hose that we thought about putting up the night before, we should have done it. We didn't.
Froze.
It froze solid.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get it off. And it still had some gray water in the line, and that froze solid, so it just cracked the sewer hoses, and that was all the sewer hoses we had at the time, which is another thing, is like bring extras because it just froze. So we ended up having to, thankfully, stay an extra day. The office at the campground we were at was very, very kind to let us stay an extra day, and we were able to hit the road the next day. But like, that kind of stuff can happen.
Yeah, I'm going to add to all of these kind of a little side note here of just being prepared to, like, if you need to, like, ask to stay another day, like, give yourself some time, give yourself some space, because you don't want to be in a rush. You don't want to have to leave. It's really useful to be able to be like, hey, I don't need to be home till Tuesday, so, like, can I stay an extra day type thing. Point number 3.
Point number 3 is kind of going back a little bit to the checklist.
Going back in time?
We're going back in time to try to eliminate the human error. Because just because you have a checklist doesn't mean that you follow the checklist every time, or that you can get complacent with the checklist.
You don't follow the checklist every time?
Well, I do now.
Wait a minute. I feel like this is a new revelation. You don't follow the checklist? Then what's the point of the checklist?
Well, so the Great Salsa incident. Long story short, I forgot to put the lock on the fridge, even though it's on my checklist. It literally says, lock the fridge. And there's a separate, like, lock
So you just
specifically.
didn't follow the checklist?
And we had multiple travel days in a row. And so I was like, oh, it's cool. We haven't really, like, done a ton. And I'm used to this now. We've been doing travel days multiple days in a row. We're good. And so I just didn't double check the checklist, and I kind of just like took it for granted that everything was good visually, and it was not. So now what I do is I actually go through the checklist. If we haven't traveled in a while, I'll go top to bottom. But if it's like travel day number 2, or we've been doing a couple different travel days, I'll go like bottom to top. And so I try to kind of switch it up a little bit just to kind of keep it fresh in my mind. Like, instead of starting in the bedroom and working my way to the kitchen, I'll start in the kitchen and work my way to the bedroom. So just things like that to kind of trick my brain into making sure I'm really paying attention to checking everything off the list.
Now I'm going to call you out, though.
What?
We didn't have multiple travel days in a row. We had been in Manitou Springs for 2 weeks.
But we moved campgrounds during that time.
No, we did not. Nope. Not even a little bit.
Well, my memory is very foggy then when it comes to that. I thought I was good. I got complacent.
Yeah, that's the real answer. Complacency.
Exactly.
On to number 4?
Sure, next. Number 4 is the 3-3-3 rule.
We should really have
switched that around.
That really
didn't really.
You planned this all out.
I did. I was the one who built the dock today. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the 3-3-3 rule. A lot of people define that differently.
Very differently.
Yeah, everybody.
Very differently.
Every RVer seems to have a different definition of what the 3-3-3 rule is and like how they follow it. So we'll tell you ours.
Well, yeah, we'll give you our version, and then we'll kind of like maybe we'll give you a little bit of what we've heard other people talk about.
Yeah. So ours is never travel more than 3 days in a row. Try to arrive by 3 p.m. and never travel more than 300 miles in a day. Now, they're guidelines. Yeah. So, during daylight savings, when it stays lighter longer, we'll maybe arrive to a campground by 4:30, and it's fine.
I think the real rule, so we say by 3 o'clock, I think the real rule is to leave plenty of time to arrive before the office closes. So if you are delayed, you can still get in potentially before the office closes, because we have, as we've already mentioned, in St. Augustine and a couple of other places, gotten to our campground and the site didn't work for us. And if in this case, when we were in St. Augustine, because it was dark and because the office was closed, we couldn't get any new sites. All the sites were filled anyways, but there was nothing.
We couldn't reach anybody, though.
We couldn't reach anybody to do anything about it. And so, but if there were sites open and the site didn't work for you or your camper, or, hey, guess what? Sometimes they have electrical issues at the podiums that has to be fixed, and you go to plug your surge protector in, and it's like, nope, you shouldn't use this power. Like, it's just nice to be able to be like, oh, hey, can I either switch sites, or can you is your maintenance guy available to just come out and fix this real quick? Nice. Those are nice things. So that's what the arrive by 3 really means, is arriving with a little, give yourself a little time in case you're delayed to get there before the office closes.
Exactly. And I think the other 2 rules, don't travel more than 3 days in a row, don't travel more than 300 miles in a day. I get it. That can be really tough. If you're a weekend warrior, you've only got a certain number of days available for your vacation. You just want to get there and enjoy. Totally understand that. The problem with that is you can have stuff really, really go wrong.
Yeah.
And if you have this long, huge, drawn-out travel day ahead of you, then you might either have to stop somewhere else for that night, or you're going to have just a really, really long day getting to where you're going, and you might not be totally safe on the road doing so.
And that's the other big part about the 300 miles in a day, is it's really about staying safe. So again, if we say the 3 o'clock is to say by the time the office closes, well, the 300 miles is that you need to be not an unsafe driver, and you don't need to be in a hurry, because guess what? That is the biggest destroyer of RVs and wrecks from RVs, is going too fast. Your tires are really not, they're rated probably to go up to 80, 85, maybe 8. I think when I looked up mine up, it's 88 miles an hour, something like that. But they're trailer tires. They're not really meant to be doing that sustained for that long. You really should be sitting in that sweet spot of 65 to 75, maybe 78 miles an hour. That's really the sweet spot that you should want to sit in. Some of you are going to look at that and say 78 miles an hour. Wow, that is way too quick. And some of you are going to look at that and be like, 78 miles an hour? How do you get anywhere? And I get it. I understand. There's 2 different mindsets there, and everybody's going to have their own little metric. That's why I gave a nice little range for you. But going more than 300 miles is going to make you rush. It's going to make you tired. And both of those things are contributors to RV wrecks and bad things happening. And for sure, there are definitely couples who can trade off driving. And so you can go more than 300 miles in a day pretty easily. And so maybe for you, it might be advisable to say 300 miles per person or 200 miles per person. So that way you're going 400 or 500 miles in a day. And y'all just trade off drivers. It's all about safety. We don't trade off drivers. So this is more for a single driver. If you're by yourself or your partner doesn't drive, it's about a you thing, not a me thing. It's not that I think that I'm unsafe after 300 miles. It's not that I think that you're unsafe after 300 miles. It's just but it's a nice metric to kind of refresh your brain a little bit. And again, it helps to keep you it kind of serves to help you get to your campground at a more reasonable time.
Well, the other thing to kind of keep in mind there too is when you plug in your destination in, GPS, Apple Maps, Google Maps, whatever, when you're towing or you're driving something that is as big as a huge motorhome, you've got to account for stops. So lunch breaks, fuel breaks, bathroom breaks for some people.
If you're in a motorhome, I guess you don't have as many of those stops, but
you probably do have a couple stops, at least for the driver to, to get out and stretch their legs, that kind of thing. And you also have to drive slower than you would if you were not towing or not driving something as big. So what we have found is, on average, whatever we plug into the GPS, we just plan an extra 2 hours onto that. And that's generally pretty accurate to about the time that we actually arrive. Yeah. So that also helps us to know when we need to leave in the morning if we want to try to arrive by 3 or arrive before the office closes.
Yeah, when I'm plugging in routes, a lot of times I'm looking for that sub 300 mile range, and that really works for us, and that's where the extra 2 hours, like we just build in that extra 2 hours of time, so we know when we're going to arrive and approximately when we're going to arrive, so we can get there before the office closes. But the third part of the 333 rule for us is we don't like to travel more than 3 days in a row, and this is a personal preference thing. Again, if you're a weekend warrior, maybe that doesn't even make sense for you. You'd never get anywhere in 3 days, and I totally get that. Or maybe you would because you're going more than 300 miles in a day.
Yeah.
Our reasoning for not going more than 3 days in a row is just because
it's exhausting.
It's just not fun. It takes we live in an RV all the time. Like every single day of the week, we are in an RV. We don't go back to a home. And so we put that that third three of the 333 rule of no more than 3 days, because we don't want to be exhausted just on the road constantly. And we want to we want to stop and do things. Like that's part of it. We want to enjoy what we're doing.
Exactly. Which leads us to next. I don't know where we're... Number five. Plan your stops on travel day. We kind of already alluded to this. You're going to have fuel stops. You're going to have lunch stops. You're going to have rest stops. You may, if you're having multiple travel days in a row, you may need overnight stops. It makes it so much more stressful when you don't plan those in advance, and then you're on the road and you're trying to figure out, hey, everybody's hungry, everybody's cranky, we need fuel. When we say everybody, we mean passengers, and we can't find a place where we can get fuel in time, or before we run out of gas, or we can't find a place to stop and eat lunch that actually has a parking lot big enough to fit the RV. Those are all really, really stressful factors when you're in the moment on the road. And so taking just a few minutes the night before or the morning of and kind of starting to map out where are some stops that you can kind of count on before you hit some of those places where you're kind of in a pickle because you can't fit or you can't find what you're looking for.
I don't really have much to add to that one. I mean, I think that's a valid one. Yeah, plan your stops in advance.
Yeah. I think the other thing, too, which I didn't actually add into the doc, but it fits here in this one, is having an RV-safe GPS. We talked about Apple Maps and Google Maps, and we actually have one of those up when we're driving and when we're towing. But we also have a separate, we use the Garmin RV, which is great. There's a lot of people that use like the trucker GPSs as well. Those are also really nice, because what they allow you to do is you can put in the dimensions of your RV, and it will help you avoid roads that either you're too heavy for or has a bridge that's too low and is going to take your ACs off the top of the roof.
Yeah, so in the case when you've got a fifth wheel like us, we're 13.5 feet. So like there are bridges that we can't get through. There's some RVs out there, really just the Airstreams, that are kind of like this, almost the same height as a regular truck might be. But definitely if you've got a fifth wheel or most anything else, you're gonna run into bridges that are too tall for or too short for you. You're too tall for.
You're too tall for. Yeah.
Yeah, that. And having one of those GPS, like one of those dedicated GPS, whether it's an app on your phone, because I know there's some apps on your phone,
mm-hmm.
or it's a dedicated device, which I like having the dedicated device just because it
doesn't lose signal.
Well, it's
as easily.
It's not about the signal. It's really just about the fact that it is working. It has one single solitary job, and you don't have to think about it. Whereas like you plug your phone in, sure, I pull up Google Maps and I have that running in the background, and it's nice because sometimes like if I see the two deviate from each other, she can pull up on the map and kind of figure out like what's going on, why are they deviating, what are they doing, is one of them doing it because of traffic, is one of them doing it because there's a potential road that might be a bad road for us. And so it allows us to kind of start watching for like what is it about this situation that needs to be altered, and sometimes it allows us to evaluate, and sometimes gives us information so that way if like the RV Garmin sometimes gives us a route that I think is illogical, because what it'll do is there'll be like sections of road that it just doesn't know whether it's safe for us or not.
So it tries to avoid it.
And it'll try to literally avoid like one block of one road, and you'll end up going on this crazy route in and around or through a city. We ended up the other day, we ended up going through this small little town trying to avoid this one little block, and all it was we just needed that. It just didn't know that road was safe for us, and so it was trying to keep us on the safest route that it could find.
Yeah.
So that you'll kind of learn some of that stuff when you see them deviate, and so that's been helpful for us as well.
The other thing I think that I personally prefer the RV specific GPSs over the trucker specific GPSs is because the trucker GPSs will try to avoid roads that commercial vehicles can't go on. Those are most of the roads that lead straight to the campground. And so as soon as you get off the highway, your GPS just kind of freaks out and won't give you, good navigation. Whereas the RV safe GPSs will typically not do that because they recognize you're an RV. You can go on roads that, commercial vehicles can't go on.
Or aren't supposed to.
Yeah, aren't supposed to. But it still kind of keeps those dimensions in play so that way, take off your AC units.
Yeah, this was literally the first year that we were full-timing. We go all the way up to New York, and there's construction. And
in Jersey.
Yeah, and so there's a detour, and so we start taking the detour, and I mean, it's maybe 50 feet into the detour, and it's like, oh, there's a bridge coming up that we can't fit underneath, and so we had to figure out how to get out of there, turn around, go a different direction, and eventually we got it all figured out. But literally that week we ordered the RV Garmin.
Well, I think the route that it detoured us to had a road that had a weight limit, and the truck by itself. So we have the truck, and we have a fifth wheel. And the truck by itself weighed more than the weight limit on the road. And so combined, we were over double what that road could handle. So we had to detour ourselves again. It was a mess.
Yeah, it was a whole ordeal. We got off the highway, went this way, went that way, went this way, went that way. And finally, luckily, we made it. Life was good. We still had our AC units. Number 6.
Number 6. Okay, this one I think is really more for you. Because there is a driving strategy that is helpful to employ when you are towing something that is as big as a big camper or a motor home or even a travel trailer. And so I would love to just pick your brain a little bit, sir, on what your driving strategy actually is when you are towing and how it differs from when you're not towing.
The Late Late Show with the RV Babe. Hit me with your questions.
Okay, so when you are driving down the road and we try to kind of stick to highways, obviously that is a safer route and it's quicker than taking the back road. But there's usually a lot of them have 3 lanes. How do you choose which lane you go in or like to travel in?
So this is actually defined in I don't know. You probably the book that you learned how to drive in. This is actually defined in that
from the DMV,
that thing, that place. So when you got 3 lanes on a highway, you've got basically your exiting and entering lane. You've got your traveling lane, and you've got your passing lane. Some people also like to call it the slow lane, the fast lane, and the ticket money lane. Yeah. However you want to do it.
If you have ticket money, then be in that lane. If you don't have ticket money, don't be in that
lane.
Don't
get in that left lane. So what I do is I really try to avoid the far left lane if at all possible. Now, when it's a 2-lane, it's never going to happen. You're going to have to pass a vehicle at some point. So you're going to be in the passing lane. And I immediately get back over into the right lane when it's a 2-lane road. I always stay in the right lane. It's just, some of you, I know y'all barrel down the highway. Y'all go and get into the fast lane. Y'all barrel 78, 80 plus miles an hour, and y'all are fine.
Except you're not, because your trailer's just doing this.
We see it. We know.
We see it. We can tell.
We're aware of how good your it's not stabilization. It'd be
sway bars.
Sway bars are, yeah.
Or how bad they are.
Yeah. No. So when there's 2 lanes. The other reason for that is, especially in Florida, I've run into it, but there's been other states that it's a big deal. Is it's not a traveling lane. It is a passing lane only, and the cops will literally come up, kind of chirp their lights at you and say, move back over. Even when you're not impeding traffic, if you're just
sitting in that
lane.
If
you're just traveling in the passing lane, they will literally just chirp their lights at you and be like, move your butt over, or else we'll give you a ticket, because they can, because it's actually law in a lot of states. When you're in a 3-lane, there's 2 different choices. Traveling lane is preferred by a lot of RVers. That's the center lane. That's preferred by a lot of truckers as well. You'll see more recently than not, though, there's a lot of truckers though are staying in the far right lane, that on and off ramp lane, because people drive fast and they're trying to get out of your way, honestly. And it's easier sometimes to just be in the far right lane and move over when somebody's coming on and then move back over when it's done. And that way people, because the problem is you get people in the middle lane who are just barely going faster. So you need to leave that third lane. So you have like 2 passing lanes effectively out on the interstate. And so that's kind of the way things have changed. It used to be middle lane all the time if you were just traveling down the road. Nowadays, it's the right lane is more of your typical traveling lane, especially if you're not going the speed limit. So like you're in Texas, somewhere where it's like 80 miles an hour, and you want to be safe like me, and you don't want to actually drive down the road at 80 miles an hour. You're going 75 to 78, be in that right lane. The other reason I don't like to be in the middle lane, and this has been more recent, and this is probably, again, this might be the same reason where the truckers are doing it, I actually don't know, is cars are not using the left lane to pass alone anymore. They're using all lanes. There used to be kind of an unspoken rule on the road that you didn't pass on the right, you only passed on the left. And that used to be more, it used to be that way, and it is not that way anymore. And so if you're in the traveling lane, which is what it is meant for, if you're just driving down the road, if you're in the traveling lane, if people want to go faster than you, well, if somebody's passing you on the left and somebody is coming up behind, they're going to try and pass you on the right. Now all of a sudden you have
a potential for a collision right in front of you.
Yeah, they're merging in front of you, and so now you have people coming from both directions, all trying to vie for in front of you. So I've gotten out of the habit of using what was originally meant as the traveling lane, and I've gone over to using the far right lane for the most part. And if I need to pass, I use the traveling lane to pass, and I really try to avoid being in the far left lane unless there's somebody in the right lane and middle lane both going slower than I would like to go. And then I'll move over to the left lane, and I apologize to everybody who gets stuck behind me because I'm not going to go that fast, but I do. Here, this is actually one of my rules of thumb, though. I like to travel at a certain speed that is below what I feel comfortable being my max speed. So like if I say, again, I'm just using these numbers, I'm not being exact, but if I were to say that I felt like the max speed that I would go on the road would be 78 miles an hour, then I like to travel at let's say 72 miles an hour. And here's the reason. This is common courtesy, especially when you're talking about larger vehicles, truckers, RVers, stuff like that. If you're coming up behind them and you go to pass them, it is polite to speed up, both to them and for everybody else on the road. So if I'm going 72, there's a truck in front of me that's going 70 and I want to pass them. I don't pass them at 72. I pass them at 74, 75, 76. So that way
you can hurry up and get in front of them.
Hurry up and get out of the way, get out of the way of everybody behind us. And also, we're not sitting there traveling together. That way, if he gets hit by a gust of wind or I get hit by a gust of wind, we're not sitting here waving in the wind together. So that's actually a general rule of thumb. And the other general rule of thumb out there for this is again, this is if you want to be polite, especially if an 18-wheeler goes to pass you. So say you're cruising down the road at 72 miles an hour, and we've all seen those truckers who are going 80 easily and they just want to burst down the road. If a trucker goes to pass you, say he's only going like 74 miles an hour, you're going 72, it is generally polite to go ahead and slow down a little bit to let them pass as well, and then obviously flash your lights to notify them that they can pull over in front of you. So I slow down a little bit. So like if I'm going 72, he's only passing me at like 74. Rather than us both taking up both lanes for longer, I'll just hit my cruise control down 2 notches, down to 70 miles an hour, let him get in front of me, and then I'll notch it back up to 72, and life's good.
Well, I think that's another thing too, is like, not only is it frustrating when you have multiple cars sitting in multiple lanes all going the exact same speed because it backs traffic up, but there's often times where there's emergency vehicles on the side of the road and you have to move over for them, or there's people that are merging into the lane, and it's polite, and it also helps traffic to continue to flow if you have the ability to move out of that lane, let them merge, and then merge back into that lane. And so if you're just sitting there next to somebody, especially next to an 18-wheeler, they can't see you, by the way, especially if you're in a zippy car. But even in a travel trailer or an RV, that blind spot for them is massive. So if you're just sitting there right next to them, you're creating all kinds of super unsafe conditions. Yeah. So yeah, to your point, I like your idea of like, adjust your speed accordingly depending on who's passing who. It's all going to wash out in the end. It's not that big a deal. You're all going to get to the same place. Let's all get there safe.
That's honestly my biggest recommendation for driving down the road is just don't be in a rush, honestly.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call out.
Which is why the things like the 333, all the other stuff we've talked about, the like double checking things, leaving extra time, doing all this, all of it comes down to don't be in a rush. Never put yourself in a situation where you're in a rush because that's where mistakes happen.
So here's a quick call out, and then we're going to talk about a massive
you asked me
fuel saving.
You asked me one question. That was it.
You answered it. You were very thorough in your answer. I was going to ask you about traffic. You covered it. I was going to ask you about passing. You covered it. I was going to ask you about dealing with truckers. You covered it. Like you were very thorough, sir.
Late night with Wandering RV Babe. She only asked you one question.
Okay. So before we get to our massive fuel saving perk, benefit, opportunity, I don't know what it is, I did want to kind of talk through a little bit about the difference between East Coast roads and West Coast roads in the U.S.
Okay.
What are your thoughts as the primary driver and as the only one who drives when we're towing between driving around the East Coast and driving the West Coast of the country? Because I feel like they're very different. But I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. So if you're talking about the interstates, for the most part, West Coast interstates are pretty well built out. There's obviously some spots where they're having to do some repairs here and there. The entire interstate system is fairly old, so you got to understand, like, repairs are just going to have to happen. Construction is going to occur. But for the most part, when you get out west of, I don't know, say Missouri, your interstates are all pretty well built out. Now, the only problem with that is they're also really spread out, too.
Yeah.
And so if you've got to get somewhere not on the interstate, you're
driving for a while.
That would probably be the biggest complaint I'd say about the West Coast is, like, if your stop is not on the interstate, then you're going to have to get onto some non-interstate roads and that's where you're going to run into more issues. Like, you're going to have your 2-lane roads, you're not necessarily as well built roads, like all of the things that could contribute to slowing down your travel. If you're having to get off the interstate for as long as you do when you're in the West Coast of the country for the most part. Now, granted, there's not as much stuff in between the interstates, so that isn't as frequent, but that's where a lot of your national parks and things like that are all kind of in those spaces. And so if you're trying to get to one of those, you just have to know you're not going to be on that. Now, if you're going to a national park, most likely there is a road, some U.S. highway or state highway that is built out specifically for you to get there. So as long as you look up in advance, figure out what that road is, make sure you're taking that one and not the random dirt road that Apple Maps tries to make you go down. Life's good.
Yeah. I think I would agree with that. I think the difference, though, with the East Coast roads is everything's much closer together, which means you can, kind of hit one destination and go to a ton of different places, which is awesome. The downside to it is everything is really close together.
Yeah.
And so it's more congested with traffic. Construction gets really, really in the way of traffic more so. Like, it impedes traffic more so. And the roads are a lot more narrow and not really designed for big campers.
That's really only when you're talking about getting off the interstate.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Now, what I will say is on the east part of the country, a lot of the interstates are a little bit older, and so probably need more construction quicker.
Yeah.
But for the most part, your interstate system is built out to handle 18-wheelers. Like, that is what it's designed for. So as long as you're on the interstate, you're not going to have to worry about that unless there's construction, which does happen both sides of the country.
Yeah.
And they'll narrow the lanes sometimes. But when you get off of the interstate in the East Coast, you will immediately notice that things are not built for big fifth wheels like us. They're built for camper vans. I mean, if you really want to say, like, people talk about over in England about how like there's no way you'd get around in a big old RV like this. It's pretty close to that in the East Coast and like especially the northeast coast of the country.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to talk about fuel discounts?
I'm always ready to talk about.
You're always ready to talk about saving money.
Always ready to talk about saving money. This episode is sponsored by... No, it's actually not.
It's actually not sponsored by, but we really like Open Roads. We will put a link in the description so that way you can go check them out for yourself. But we really love Open Roads fuel discounts. It is a fleet program, so a lot of RVers use this program, as well as a lot of truckers use this program. There are a ton of fuel stops that all participate in this program as well. I think all of the Love's travel stops, marathons.
I don't know if it's all marathons.
A lot of marathons are on there.
It's for diesel only.
Yes, it is for diesel only. So if you're a gas guzzler, sorry.
And if you're, it really only applies to the truck lanes.
Yes.
So if a marathon has a truck lane, then there's a chance that they might be on it. The Loves definitely do participate. TA definitely participates.
Yes.
But there's an app. So you literally just say, here's my location. Where is the closest gas station?
Yep.
And it shows you the cost after the discount rather than what's displayed. And then I think they charge like a, I don't know, like $1 or $2 something service fee on top of that. So you get the discount, but then you pay an extra $1. So it's best to go when you're, going to fill more of the tank. You don't want to do like little quarter tank fill ups because you're going to get hit on that service fee every time. So that's kind of what I do is my rule of thumb is basically I wait till our tank is about halfway empty.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have her look for a gas station, and that gives us basically a whole half of a tank to get to wherever we need to go to get to the gas station. That's going to give us the best price and also be in Open Roads and preferably have the fast food restaurant we want in case we want to grab lunch.
Exactly. Most Open Roads customers save anywhere between 40 and 50 cents per gallon. I think we can probably vouch for that as well. And the other nice thing about Open Roads is how we had talked about earlier, traveling and planning your stops. You're pretty much almost guaranteed to find a travel stop where you're going to be able to fit because it only works in the truck lanes.
Yeah.
So if you have a really big camper like we do, really big RV like we do, and you're a diesel truck or a diesel motor home, this is a really, really great discount to take advantage of. I think last year we saved over $600 in fuel by using Open Roads. The year before, I think we saved more than that. This year, we haven't actually traveled quite as much, so we probably haven't saved quite as much.
And the year's not over yet, so we don't know.
That's very true. But it really does work. It really is super convenient as well. And they just now launched where you can use a credit card as part of tying it to your account instead of what they had previously, which was only being able to use a debit card or a checking account. So if you prefer to use credit card versus a debit card on your account for paying for that fuel.
Got to get those mileage points.
Yeah, got to get those mileage points, that kind of thing. They just launched that feature as a brand new improvement. It's actually really cool because we gave them feedback on that, and as did a number of other RVers requesting that. So it's really cool that they responded to that feedback and made that change.
Yeah, it was real awkward when we first signed up, back 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it was, and it was like, oh, you got to put in your bank information. Well, how much do I trust this company? I don't know.
I know.
There was a little bit of a holdout, but then we
they're reputable.
They're fairly reputable, and so we were like, oh, okay, fine, we'll do it.
Yeah, but it is really nice to see that they integrated the credit card. So if you do want to get those reward points,
and that's a brand new thing.
It is. It just launched, I think, this last month. So definitely really cool to check out. Again, we'll put that link in the description so that way you can check that out.
And while you're down there in the description, hit the like and subscribe button.
And the bell.
And the little bell so you get notified every time we release a new show.
Yeah. Can we do the ding, ding, ding? All right, well, hopefully these tips helped you. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Who knows, we might do an entire show dedicated to answering your question. Or if not, then maybe we'll answer your question.
Or maybe we'll just put your question up and we'll never answer it, and we'll just show it so that way that we saw it. I think that's a great idea. I like that idea. We're at the beginning.
It's not even okay.
At the beginning of every show, we're just going to post somebody's question that has nothing to do with anything we talk about, and we're never going to answer it.
I don't know. Some of the questions we get are a little wild, so that could be interesting.
Or we could answer it at random times in the show, so you actually have to watch all the way through
to watch the whole show
to figure out when we're going to actually answer your question. I like this idea. This sounds like so much fun. We're gaming the system.
Y'all, I don't know what to do with him.
I know what to do with me. Close us out of this place, baby.
Well, this was fun. We should do this again next week. Happy camping, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye. You say we get weird questions. What's the weirdest question we've gotten asked?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot.
Yes,
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I mean, how weird are we talking? Like, are we talking like let's not go down like the Rule 42 weird.
I don't know. I've gotten like random questions where somebody they saw that they were the first person to comment, or they saw that there weren't a ton of comments, and they were like, "What's your favorite shape of noodle?" I mean, like weird stuff like that. And
okay, what's your favorite shape of noodle?
I've never thought of it. It's a noodle. I eat it and it tastes good. I don't really care what shape it's in.
Does penne count? I kind of like penne.
Penne's good.
I like penne.
Penne's good.
I like ravioli, but I don't know if is that a noodle?
I guess I like. Yeah, I mean it is a noodle. It's pasta. It's a noodle. It's a stuffed noodle.
It's a pasta, but so? What is a noodle?